Hello there fellow NPCs, I am Carbon Scythe and today is the finals for the best Throuple in the AVN tournament 2024. We've seen 15 different Throuples fight for the honorable title of best Throuple, and in the past 11 days we have gone down to 8, down to 4, and now today we are at 2 finalists. You know who they are. You've been voting like crazy. So crazy in fact that we actually have 132 votes. The only vote that was stronger than this one was the initial voting where we simply collected the seats. So this one is one battle you did not want to mess up with. But before we go into the actual results of the tournament, before we choose who wins between becoming a rockstar Lisa and Jade and Bear Witness Heidi and Athena, I have a little something. I did explain this to you in the previous episode. I hope this is a bit of fun, but I did get in contact with a AVN developer, the one and only MissFortune, the one behind We Were Just Kids and Move the Chains. If you're like me and only play AVNs from Steam, mostly anyway, then you might have seen that neither of these games are available just yet. But Move the Chains will be available eventually, and We Were Just Kids and Move the Chains are already available through MissFortune's Patreon and itch. But, as I said, I have a couple of questions that I have prepared for him, and so, let's interview a developer for an adult visual novel. Never in my life did I ever expect to say that sentence. So before we actually do the interview questions, I also want to premise this whole thing with saying that I simply came up with a couple of questions, and I even told him that he can change the questions if they're bad or boring and things like that, because I am not a journalist. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just came up with a couple of questions and I thought, maybe these are good enough. But he did answer all of them, and so let's go through them. So, MissFortune, what do you think was the biggest hurdle to overcome when you started making AVNs? Things like writing, rendering, bug fixes, marketing, etc. Anything you can think of, really. Like anything, I think the biggest hurdles to overcome are the things you don't really know anything about. I already had some experience with writing through personal stuff that I'll never see the light of day, and an editing job I had for a few years. One's biggest hurdles for me was definitely rendering, specifically in the lighting department. I'd never done anything with lighting. Closest was probably photo manipulation with Photoshop years ago, but even that was just blending everything with the base lighting involved. Same goes for the coding itself, especially later on when I started working with UI elements. I think overall the biggest one for me was dealing with the frustration of having a vision for something but not having the knowledge to get it done in the way I wanted. I guess that's how everyone grows at what they do though. Did you draw inspiration for your characters or scenarios from anywhere special, like an actual person you encountered or a TV series or a movie? For We Were Just Kids, not so much. There were elements from certain other media, namely skins in the way of heavy drama and darker sensitive topics, while playing with some Dread/Death Note-esque themes of playing Judge, Jury and Executioner. And what gives a person the right to decide whether something is right or wrong or good and evil, with some sprinkles of predeterminism laced in for good measure. A bit pompous in nature, perhaps, especially for an AVN, but it felt fitting with the overall narrative. And given that We Were Just Kids was always something of a passion project, it's a topic I've always found fairly interesting. For Move the Chains, it's definitely a bit simpler. It follows your typical Christian Hallmark movie, think Facing the Giants, recipe in the rags to riches story of an athlete coming out of the ghetto to playing under the bright lights. It's very much made in the same vein as those, with a splash of Friday Night Lights. There's a few scenes that are very much based off of it. The goal was creating a similar story to those types of movies, but without throwing the religious overtones in your face the entire time. Real people with real problems and real demons. Can't say I've seen Friday Night Lights, but I do think I've seen Facing the Giants. So I might have to double check what movies those are. And question 3. Did the story of the character arcs change direction from what you originally planned? And how? I tend to write a bit ahead of where the story is currently rendered, more in a draft outline form than actually written. So I tend to have some idea of where the story is going before the story gets there. So I usually tend to change the direction of things behind the scenes rather than a visible form. We Were Just Kids did see a fairly heavy rework that changed some key parts, but not so much in the story, outside of the removal of some not safe for work scenes. But the main female protagonist of We Were Just Kids saw the biggest changes early on. She was initially written as strong-willed and stubborn, but it really didn't fit her character type and her background. She was largely shifted to be more quiet, brooding and angry. A ticking time bomb waiting to explode. But yeah, the short of it is that a lot of changes happen in the background more than anything in your face does. Is there any AVN out there that you would recommend? A game that you think everyone should give a try? Oh man, there's so many I could put there that I feel bad having to name just one. But I'll have to go with Leaving DNA here. Hard to believe that it has so little support with the quality it has. It deserves far more recognition than it's currently getting. Honorable mention goes to Little Regina by Echo Foxtrot, though I'm fairly biased there. It doesn't have perfect renders, but it's carried by its charming character and good writing. Question 5. Now this one is the one that I was a bit not impressed, excited about. On a scale of story to experience, we have games like Leap of Faith on the story end, helping CC deal with depression, and on the experience end we have games like Being a Dick, Life of a College Student. Where would you place We Were Just Kids and Move the Chains? We Were Just Kids is very much on the story side of things. Choices later on are intentionally made to make you question your sense of morals and of justice, which may or may not play a heavy role later on in the story. Move the Chains, I'd like to say, leans more towards the story, but it more realistically rides the line of both, if not more into experience. It's a lot of college life moments, but also rides the lines of heavier topics that lean into the story side. So maybe a little bit of both, but more experience than story. What is your favorite trait in a woman? Not necessarily a kink, but some attribute that you gravitate towards. For me, I was giving some examples here because everything is not physical. So I personally have a crush on all redheads, but also on girls who have an interest not considered the norm or mainstream. I'll exclude tattoos since that's an easy one. It's a bit weird, but I have a thing for big smiles. The kind that cause something of a crescent shape to the eyes. Not sure if there's a name for it, but Jordana Brewster is basically what I'm referring to. She can do anything she wants to me, by the way. Question 7. Have you followed the tournament? And if you have, who did or do you hope takes first place? I've been keeping an eye on it if I caught the post. Of the current options, of all of which are good to be honest, I'd say I'm the biggest fan of Mallory and Amanda from Chasing Sunsets. Really well written, in my opinion at least. And last but not least, so I can't actually post any links in the description to your work because I have been shadow banned for things like that in the past. But feel free to tell me where we can find you and your games. No worries, totally understand how faux puritanical / piedistic these companies can be. I'm basically on everything from Patreon to Twitter or X. Googling MissFortune games should bring up everything important. Here's a link tree to all of said pages, including a link to Steam where you can wishlist Move the Chains. And that is a bit short and sweet interview that I had with MissFortune. Thank you very much for answering these questions. As I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I hope this gave some kind of value to the viewers instead of me just throwing out numbers at you. But you have waited long enough now. So, question is, out of these 132 votes, where do we have Lisa and Jade, and where do we have Heidi and Athena. I could see a trend already after 4 hours, I think it was. But that's also when I started to post the vote on every subreddit after 4 hours. And things started to change. Question is, how much did it change? I do not know these games, I do not know what they're about, I do not know these characters. But in the end, only one can win, and it's a clear cut who that winner is. With a total of 90 votes out of 132, which is more than 68% of the vote, which, you know, 2/3 of the votes. And the winner of the Best Throuple in the AVN Tournament 2024 goes to Becoming a Rockstar, Lisa and Jade. And that is how we conclude this tournament. Congratulations, Lisa and Jade, for being the best throuple out there. If I will do something like this in the future, how should I improve them? Write in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for coming back through all of these videos. It's been a lot of fun doing something new and different with all of this. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, just because you're not the main character, it does not mean you're not important. Goodbye everyone.